Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Citizens Voice. I am Dr. Nik Nikam, sitting in for Bangar Reddy. And guess where Bangar Reddy is today? He's in Washington, D.C. Anyway, welcome to Citizens Voice. The number to call here is 713-568-0987. Or the studio number is 281-277-6874. Again, the number to call here is 281-277-6874. Today, the whole program is going to be dedicated to Trump's inauguration, Trump's executive orders, Trump's promises and potentials. And we're going to look at from both the pro and con point of view as to what Trump wants to do, what he wishes to accomplish, and what he can accomplish in reality, and what are the challenges he's going to be facing with each one of his projects. We're going to dive deep into these topics. We'll be joined by Dr. Nisha Sundararagopalan and Melvin shortly. And in the process, we would like to get you an agenda for what we would like to talk about today. We're going to be talking about the inauguration day of Trump's 47th presidency in the United States. As you know, Trump is going to be inaugurated around noontime tomorrow, and there's a whole day event agenda which we're going to go through in a minute. Following that, we are going to be talking about executive orders, a fascinating topic. We'll cover some of the things that Trump plans to issue as an executive order, and there's a very long list which we will cover some of them. After that, we're going to talk about what are the major challenges Trump is going to be facing in the United States and internationally, all across the globe, and how his presidency is going to be viewed based upon actions taken by him. Trump has made a lot of promises during the election, and we'll also look at the challenges Trump will face in terms of international relations, in terms of international business proposals which he has come up with, namely the tariffs and other restrictions. Following that, we'll also be talking about inflation, which is in everybody's mind. Inflation is something that affects 99% of the Americans, or I should say 100% of the Americans. It doesn't matter what your income level is. And Trump has very ambitious ideas as to how he is going to tackle inflation and the interest rates. So we're going to cover a lot of these topics during the course of these 2 hours, and we'll talk about what are the challenges that Trump will face in terms of fighting inflation. Inflation is like a very, very stubborn animal. It hasn't been very responsive for the last 2-3 years with all the changes the Federal Reserve has been trying to do to bring the inflation down, and still the inflation is bordering around 2.9%. That tells you. And the biggest topic, of course, will be from Trump's point of view and for the United States, for each of us, that is the border crisis, and how Trump wants to handle the border crisis, and how he thinks he can deport millions of people, and we look at the reality of what he can really accomplish during his 4-year term. Inflation, we talked about that, and of course the economy. Economy is on everybody's mind. Everybody talks about the economy, and most of us have very little that we can do to change the course of the economy. Economy is like a Titanic, you know. It has its own course, and it takes a mountain of effort to change the course of economy. Then we're going to talk about the nominations, you know, what has been going on in the Senate. And it's fascinating for me to watch the debates going on in the Senate and some of the things that the opposing party ask the nominated members, and we'll see, you know, how effective or how successful they have been in blocking anyone's nominations. We'll tell you who are the people who have been confirmed for nominations at this time and who are going to be quite contentious candidates when it comes to the nominating process in the Senate. And tax cuts, Trump has been known for tax cuts. Trump feels that the tax cuts are going to be an effective way to boost the economy, to boost the job rates, to boost the bottom line income for individuals. But the opposition, the Democrats, and a lot of economists feel that some of the things proposed by Trump may be in fact counterproductive. That's why I said we look at from both pro and cons point of view and see what Trump can accomplish. And finally, we're going to talk about H1B visa debate, which has been going on for the past several weeks, ever since the election of Trump and ever since Elon Musk promoted H1B visas. We'll look at what is the extent of the H1B visa candidates in this country and what are the guidelines used, what can be done, and how many people are here, how many people are approved for each year based on H1B visa, and what has been happening to the American graduates who are graduating from the technical institutes who may be having trouble finding jobs. H1B visa. If time permits, I'm going to talk about how to write a 400-page reference book. Of course, I'm talking about an echocardiography reference book which I wrote, 400 pages, it's 4-color beautiful book using AI assistance. So if you're trying to be an aspiring author, if you would like to know how you can write a book, of course this book was written in 4 weeks, I will go through every step as how to write your book, how to edit it, how to create a table of contents, how to create a cover, how to publish this on Amazon, self-publish the book, and then you'll be able to check it out, my book which I have done, and that is going to be the last segment depending upon how much time is left for us to discuss. With that, I would like to give you the studio number. The number is 281-277-6874. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to take a couple of minutes to thank our sponsors who have been helping this program, namely Thora Capital, Deep Products. Of course, thanks to Umang Mehta, who has been supporting every major Indian event, non-profit organization events, and also so many social and commercial entities, Core Insurance, Tutor Jack, and Biryani Pot. So we thank all our sponsors for giving us this opportunity to bring this citizen's voice to you. And as I was telling you, my friend Melvin has arrived. Melvin, welcome. I'm delighted to see you. I was wondering if anybody was going to join me. How are you doing today?
Excellent, excellent. Looking forward. Looking forward to.
Thank you so much. And I just went through the table of contents of what our discussion is going to be. I said that the whole day is going to be devoted to Trump 2.0, his promises, executive orders, Senate confirmations, H1B visa, economy, interest rate, and inflation, and of course oil, all these different topics which we will be covering. And we'll also be joined by Dr. Nisha shortly, and she's on the way. In the meantime, I was telling them, if time permits, in the last 20 minutes, I want to talk about the reference book, which 400-page, 4-color reference book, which I prepared in less than 4 weeks and published it on Amazon using AI assistance. So, keeping that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take just a quick break, and we will be right back, and we'll begin with the Inauguration Day celebrations. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. And I have Melvin in the studio here, and we're going to start off with the Trump Inauguration Day. Melvin, what do you think about Trump's Inauguration Day?
So the first important interesting thing to note is that it's going to be indoors. This is going to be among the coldest inauguration days in this century.
So, no, not in the real cold sense. Yeah, if you talk to the Democrats, they'll say, yeah, this is going to be the coldest inauguration. But right. From most 73 million people's point of view, it is going to be one of the most fascinating turning points.
Right, I mean the temperatures.
I know.
Most of the heat will come from the Democrats.
I know. That's right. So we have something to balance.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely. You know, one of the interesting things is I was listening to some of the news that the last time they had an indoor inauguration was in 1985 or something. So
yes.
It's been 15 years. I think 1985, something like that. So, of course, it's going to be disappointing for a lot of people who have gone. I hope Banga Reddy will be able to get inside the building.
Yes.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Banga Reddy is lucky he gets to watch the... I'm assuming he didn't tell me where he's going.
Yes.
You know, he might have gone to Washington, D.C. To witness the inauguration of the 47th president. And let's look at some of the agenda that they have, which is kind of promising. It start off with a tea at the White House. And they were saying the mood in the White House was like pretty gloomy from some of the reports I heard. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, so there's a small civil war brewing in the Democrat Party right now, and it is breaking into camps. Biden is gloomy that he did not run, and he's happy that Kamala lost because it's perverse logic.
It's kind of a bitter sort of buy for himself because you know, I was never fond of Biden. I'm going to be pretty straightforward.
Exactly.
And the whole 4 years, what they have done is destroy the country's the whole fabric of the American dream.
And often, when people start out destroying something else, often they end up destroying themselves.
That's right, self-destruction in the process.
Yes, without realizing.
That's going to be followed by a ceremony, a swearing ceremony, which will be held around noontime at the Capitol. Of course, it's going to be inside the Capitol building. And then there's going to be a speech by Vice President Biden. That's going to be followed by a president signing room in the Capitol. This is different from executive orders.
Yes,
This is going to be done in the White House.
Yes.
Then there's president, then they have a congressional lunch with the joint section. I don't know, do you think all the Democrats are going to show up for lunch?
So the Democrats themselves are fragmenting.
Yeah.
I think, for example, Fetterman will probably be pride of place.
Oh yes, yes.
Now, Trump has not at all been vindictive. He's been very good on outreach. He's talking to people. He's not, but not many are responding, and so it will be interesting to see. I think there are people like Fetterman who are moving quite towards reconciling with Trump, and there might be a few fragments. There are people who are neutral.
Yeah.
But then there are people who have their hang-up. They can't let go.
Yeah, it's just the hatred is so much.
So I think there's two problems. The hatred is so much. Number two is they've spent the last 2, 3, 4 years saying if Trump wins, democracy is going to be destroyed.
Yeah, that's right.
And there is a cognitive dissonance ahead with sitting with him, watching him being inaugurated, and democracy is not being destroyed.
That's right.
So
they can't handle things the way they are going.
And they don't know what to say when democracy didn't get destroyed.
Yeah.
They are
absolutely. You see, that's the beauty of it. You know, when they try to come with a vicious mind and try to accomplish something, it was not successful. Now they have to sit and see the fruits of what they have done.
And they have to explain. They have to explain themselves. They're like, we are sure democracy will be destroyed.
Yeah.
Now the main person who was saying democracy would be destroyed is swearing in Trump.
That's the thing. Yeah, absolutely. The man who said, you know, he's Hitler.
The woman who said he will be destroyed, who ran against him, is the one swearing him in.
Yeah.
The vice president swears in the new president.
I see.
So Kamala has to swear in.
Yeah.
She has to stand in front of him and swear him in. So there are many ironies, and not many people are sure what to do when I said it will be destroyed for sure. And
I mean, unfortunately, they just have like a very, very, what I would say, vicious hatred towards Trump. Ever since he started running in 2016, this is absolutely, now it's backfired on them, for him to come back after 4 years of gap and to be elected, and that's what I feel, he is a true fighter, and even though he has done so much good during his first term, they absolutely turn around and say everything. Like I was watching one of these liberal media, they're saying, now wait for the beginning of the demon years of, and of course, Oval Office signing ceremony of executive orders, and we'll come to that next in a couple of minutes. And they're going to have 3 inaugural balls. And can you guess, who some of the guests are going to be?
So I know that YMCA will be there.
Yes.
And
he got so much mileage out of that YMCA song.
Yes, right.
It became like a signature in every one of his rallies.
And it fits his energy very well.
Yeah, and also the YMCA was staunch supporter of Kamala Harris.
Yes.
And they have agreed to come and perform. It just shows that even though people are trying to give him a chance to do, what he says he's going to do. Of course, we are not, in favor of everything Trump says or he thinks he can accomplish. We're going to talk about pros and cons of what he can do and cannot do. But at the same time, there are so many people, like you said, Fetterman actually went to Mar-a-Lago to meet Trump. And so you're going to have to work together because...
Eric Adams is another.
Yeah.
He was from making New York a sanctuary, he's switched to saying he will support the department.
Oh, Eric Adams, the New York mayor.
Right, he said he's now going to support the enforcing the warrants.
Absolutely, we're going to come to that when we talk about border crisis, because all these Democratic mayors have been saying that, we're going to block the ICE, we're going to block the Homeland Security and all these things, but we'll come to that. And all the tech lords are going to be there.
Yes.
Zuckerberg, Bezos, and of course Elon Musk will be there.
Sam Altman.
Sam Altman is going to be there. It just shows there has been a 180-degree turn in the tech industry as to what they did in the last 4 years, trying to destroy the conservative voices, to dismantle DEE and all these other things put together.
I think there's 2 ways to look at it. One way to look at it is there's been a genuine change of heart.
Yeah.
The other way to look at it is now the chickens are coming home to roost,
yes.
And they know what they've done wrong, and they really want to make friends with Trump because they don't know how he will respond now that the people whom they try to crush are in power.
Yes.
And so better to make friends with them rather than see what they do.
Yeah.
So I don't know how sincere Zuckerberg is. Elon Musk is sincere.
I know. Yes. I have some observations. I think these guys are coming because they know if Kash Patel is elected, nominated,
yes.
and approved,
yeah.
they know that they all are on guard.
Yes,
absolutely. Every one of these tech lords who tried to suppress the conservative voice, who tried to badmouth the president and delist him from their list and all these things are going to come to home.
Yeah. So Pam Bondi and Kash Patel are like Batman and Robin.
Absolutely, I watched Pam Bondi, and it was one of the finest confirmation hearings.
I was glad that Matt Case was removed. I was, as much as I like him, because she will outdo Matt Case.
We are talking about the inaugural ball, and so there's going to be 3 different inaugural balls. So Trump is going to attend all 3 of these, and a lot of these have been financed by the tech companies. They are almost spending $170 million for just this inauguration ceremony itself. So we're going to take a couple of minutes break, and then we're going to talk about the executive orders, because these are very important, and this gives a glimpse into what Trump really wants to do on day 1 and what things can be done, and how many of these can be accomplished by Trump, and more importantly, what are the hurdles he's going to face for his executive orders. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, we are back again, and we're going to talk about Trump's executive orders. And when Trump was running for election, he made a lot of promises that he can resolve a lot of issues in a short order. And some of them were like catchy phrases which probably propelled him to be elected as the 47th president. So let's talk about immigration and border security. What can Trump do in terms of immigration and border security by just executive orders?
Obviously he can do some deportations, but maybe not all that he wants. He can get for people who have outstanding criminal warrants who are sub judice, he can certainly start. The challenge will be to get the resources necessary, and it looks like he's focusing on a few areas. I'm not 100% certain if the border wall can resume, because I think there's been some legal action against, and it might violate due process if he starts in the border wall. So for sure, it just simply reinstating remain in Mexico, and some of those things, clearly they were originally brought in by executive order. So clearly he can reinstate remain in Mexico, and I forget what it's called, releasing people on probation, or I forget what the correct term is.
Yeah.
He can rescind that. He can say, while you're waiting for a decision, you have to stay outside the country, or you have to stay in a jail.
That's what he had done during his first administration. He said remain in Mexico.
Yes.
And he forced Mexico to put 20,000-30,000 soldiers in the southern border, preventing these people from migrating all the way through Mexico.
And Mexico in his first term, not only initially Mexican put people on the Mexican-American border, but then they realized they don't want those people in their own country, so they put Mexican troops on the Guatemalan border.
That's right, that's what I said.
So the people whom they don't want in their country, they were sending into America.
Yeah.
The hypocrisy of it. They built a wall on their border with Guatemala.
Is that right?
And they don't want America to build a wall on its border. So it's nonsense.
I think, he's just going to enforce laws, and he say, okay, the border is going to be closed.
Yes.
Actually, we're talking about deportation. Obama deported 5.2 million people over 8 years. Clinton deported more than 5 million people. Trump deported only 1.5 million people because he closed the border.
Yes.
The number of people who crossed the border during his term was, like in the hundred thousands, not 10 millions or 20 millions.
Right. But the other important thing to also know about Obama is almost all the people he deported were just entered. They were within like 100 miles of the border. They had just crossed the border. But so Trump deported some people from the interior.
Yeah.
And that's not been done. So that's a whole new phase. It's not simply the numbers. Someone who came in the border last week and you deport them today, it's good and that should be done. But Obama made no moves on people who came here 1 year back and had skipped court appearance, and they were illegal. So now these things can be very easily done by executive order because they are already in violation of a law.
Yes.
And they are only staying in America on prosecutorial discretion.
Yeah.
You can end prosecutorial discretion.
I think Tom Homan said this is what's going to happen on January 21st, that is tomorrow, by this time, ladies and gentlemen, Tom Holmes will be knocking on doors in Chicago.
Yes.
And he has said if any one of the mayors obstruct them, he is going to take them to court, and he's going to start in Chicago. And as you said, of course, New York is going to be more open to...
So what's interesting is, even though New York is more open to it, he picked Chicago.
I know. Chicago is the worst culprit, and that's the best place to send the message, we mean business.
Yes.
And Tom Homan, that's what he wants to do. He said, we'll show you what we mean.
Yes. And he told what's his name, both Governor Pritzker and Brandon, the mayor. He said, okay, you want to violate the law? Let's go for it.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
Immigration is a federal matter. They have no business, trying to hide these guys or trying to obstruct the Homeland Security from evacuating these people. So I think they are just in for trouble by obstructing Tom Homan from rounding up all these people and putting. But the sad part is, with almost 11 million people here, the cost of deporting 1 million people per year is going to cost $80 to $81 billion. So that's a lot of money, and any new money that has to be appropriated has to be approved by Congress. So that's where some of the challenges really come into play.
Right, and so that's if there is a budgetary impact.
Yeah.
So unless it could be done by reallocating. So that's another thing that can be done by executive order.
Yeah.
Say the funds were allocated for something, we will move to something else.
Yeah.
And what I don't know is if by denying federal funding to sanctuary cities, that also raises funds. Now, I'm not sure, that might require congressional action. To tell a city that's not cooperating, the money it costs us to enforce the law in your city will be charged to your federal funding.
Yes. Well, Trump has said it, he's going to stop funding of these sanctuary cities.
Yeah, my suspicion is that it can't be done without some congressional action.
Many of these executive orders are going to be, scrutinized legally, constitutionally, and by, court actions. Let's see who this one. Hello, you're on Citizen's Voice. Can we help you? Hello?
If you are a Citizen's Voice, you should give audience chance.
Yes, sir. This is the third time you have called, so, go ahead, please, and keep your question brief.
Okay. That president should now be the FBI director. He is a Hindu from India.
Okay.
India.
Okay.
Single Muslim out of the 14% population of 1.4 billion. Not a single Muslim or a Christian can become a member of the ruling party. That is the RSS or okay?
So this is not about India.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for your opinion. Okay. Coming back to the again, as I said, they want to cut down the funding, and again, it's going to be, challenged by the Democrats and in the courtrooms. And now talking about energy. One of his famous quotes was, of course, "Drill baby drill," which got the national attention. And of course, he has supported oil, and that's how he made America oil independent during his first term. And oil is again like a giant Titanic. How quickly can you turn the tides around?
Yes. So, actually, that it can be turned around relatively quick because fracking brings oil out of the ground relatively quick.
Yeah.
Now, I don't mean like within a week of starting, but for existing wells, you can increase production. That can be done fairly quickly. Drilling new wells, the process of, depending on whether it's offshore or onshore, if you start exploring today, you can expect oil in 3 to 5 years to be flowing out. But I think just simply, you look at the Marcellus Shale, you look at Permian Basin, other places, just from existing wells.
Yes.
I don't have the number, but I'm going to guess the US can bump up production by 1 million barrels relatively.
Absolutely, and that may be another reason why Fetterman was interested in
because Pennsylvania
meet with Trump, because he's in favor of fracking and anything that increases the economy of the state. Why would you do? And all these regulations that have been put on the oil industry, he said he's going to wipe out all those Biden restrictions, which will make even, as you said, existing facilities to produce oil maybe at a cheaper price because they don't have to meet all these unnecessary regulations.
There's two things, there's cheaper and there's faster.
Yeah.
Which is, from the moment you submit an application, how fast is it approved? And they can't start drilling a well until it is the plan is approved. So a lot of these things can be simplified. But then there's another thing. If you look at why so much drilling stopped in Biden's term, it is not only because of regulation. It is because he said we will make the oil industry obsolete in 10 years.
Yeah.
So who is going to drill a well today if the industry will be obsolete in 10 years.
That's ludicrous.
It's psychological.
Yeah.
So if I'm investing in a company and someone tells me this company's business will be obsolete in 10 years, I'm not going to buy their stock. I'm going to buy another company's stock.
Absolutely, because if America is unilaterally trying to, pour trillions of dollars in climate control and all this, and China is producing, trillions of tons of carbon dioxide, this is insane. This is global atmosphere.
Right.
You can't locally control the climate in the United States, while India and China are just, pouring as much more.
So China is opening 100 new coal plants.
Yeah, I just saw that.
And Germany has reversed its ban on nuclear and it has reopened the coal plants it has shut down, it has reopened them. Because it can't get natural gas from Russia anymore.
Yes.
So the proposal is to make America the only country in the world that is actually shutting down the most readily available. And the other interesting thing is with Biden's last executive action against Russia, he has essentially almost completely shut off Russian oil exports. Well, someone has to replace those 1 or 2 million barrels on the market, or we will see oil prices
skyrocket,
$200 a barrel. So, and there are two countries that can increase production rapidly: US and Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia.
No other country can just add 1 million barrels like that. They can add 100,000 here, 200,000 there, maybe. So
and of course, they have trillions of barrels of reserve, which you don't really need to use it at this time. But I think just more oil production would stabilize the economy to a large extent from bringing down the oil prices. In that way, as you said, of course, Trump favors blocking Russian oil or gas, anything going to Germany or Europe. And I think he will do anything. That's why he even wants to export oil from the time he takes the office.
Yes, and in fact, in the last week, Ukraine has been bombing the Turk Stream pipeline.
Yeah.
So Russian production is being crippled. So if we have to look ahead, the next thing, and Iran is in a precarious state. There can be a war any day.
Yeah.
Hopefully not. I hope not. But if there is, and it will be done by Iran, not by anyone else, Iran is what, maybe 1 or 2 million barrels, I don't know exactly, on the world market. So it is prudent to have the capacity to stabilize the market when we need to. It's very irresponsible to simply say, oh, we just let go of one of our strongest economic levers.
I know. So let's move on to the next part, which is the federal workforce. Of course, he wants everybody to show up for work at their desk. I don't know how. Didn't Biden sign a new executive order saying that, or something that until 2027 or 29 they can work from home or something like that? I mean, that's ludicrous to do things like that in the last minute.
Yes, to be honest, what I'm glad is he did not pardon Fauci in the last minute. That I would rather have him. But yes, it is responsible. As something I find out from the last time Trump took power is it's not always super easy to overturn an executive order, and there's a process of advertising that you're going to do it. This happened with DAPA, the son of DACA, which is he couldn't just, even though it was brought in by executive order, it could not just be cancelled overnight with executive order. There was a process of, you have to advertise it to the public for so many days, you have to invite comment, you have to accept the public comments. Then after accepting comments, you can ignore the comments. But you have to invite
the public to voice their opinions.
Yes, that, we want to hear what you have to say. So there is a name for that process which I don't remember. So some of these things can put little stumbling blocks. They can't stop it from happening. But it can slow it down a little bit.
And of course, he talks about, regulatory reforms, which I'm sure, he's going to bring down a lot of these unnecessary blocks that have been put in every industry for that matter. I mean, the red tape costs more than the actual product or the service that is being given.
For a like a startup or a capitalist, it's hard to do business planning when regulation becomes unpredictable. Like FCC is one, but there are many with net neutrality and some of those things. But there are many different areas where oil, obviously, because there's a psychological aversion to oil. There's a lot of artificial, And they're not spending time understanding forest wildfires, but spend all your time crippling business.
And one of the other things I saw was that he's going to dismantle the DEE policies in the federal government, and Mark Zuckerberg already said, he just, they are not going to follow the DEE procedures for hiring, and it's going to be based on merit.
I think Walmart also cancelled it.
Is that right?
Yeah, there's a
big Walmart and Facebook and Google and all this. Come on. So this is what I see is there's a dramatic shift in every industry. They realize that what they were doing was stupid. It was undercutting their workforce quality. It was undercutting their performances. Same thing with Boeing. Airplanes are falling off the skies, and these guys were more focused on DEE, and so the CEO was so adamantly debated. I said, is your pay based on your performance and quality, human safety, and all these things? How come your pay has gone up 50% while you had 2 planes that crashed and so many people, and you have violated so many inspection safeties from the FAA point of view?
So basically just removing merit is just a really stupid idea. I do certainly think disadvantaged communities need to be helped, but not by giving jobs to incompetent people.
It's like giving a job to your brother or cousin, and with no reference to whether that person has qualifications or can be productive or do something good for the company. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a little break, and we're going to come back, and then we're going to talk about what are some of the challenges that Trump may be facing, because everything he says he wants to accomplish may or may not turn into reality. He did not do so during the first term. So we'll touch upon some of these points as what are the challenges he will be facing. We'll be right back after these messages. So here we got legal.
You're right, that guy is crazy. And it took me some time to understand what he's saying. He's not even talking about America. He's talking about India.
I think I told you this guy is a real nuisance.
And I don't mind a challenging question, but get to the point and talk about America.
I have a little chapter on Cash Patel at the end and pros and cons. Even Cash Patel is not a straight candidate. And we'll bring out these points. It's up to people to decide what they want to do. What is this?
So this is 24. So Biden was elected in 20?
20, yeah.
Yes, 60.
We covered only 2 topics. We got already 1 hour. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. I'm Dr. Nik Nikam sitting in for Bengal Reddy. We are talking about the Trump 2.0. Along with me, I have Melvin, and we talked about the Inauguration Day celebrations. We talked about executive orders. We're going to move on to what are the challenges that Trump may face. Let's talk about legal challenges that he may be facing. Of course, he wants to write more than 100 executive orders on that's tomorrow.
Yes. So I think each executive order is its own story. And I think when an executive order reverses a previous executive order, there is a due process. It will surely go through. Then if an executive order is challenging a congressional law, that's even more, now the courts have to decide whether there is space within the law for an executive order. And there's also, I'll be honest, there's a little bit of irony there. What Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk have come to do is to remove the bureaucratic state. What is the bureaucratic state is doing things that were not passed by Congress. So there is some irony in passing an executive order that is not passed by Congress. I think it is wrong when Democrats do it. It will probably be wrong when Republicans do it, I'll be honest and say that.
Anything that's been passed as a law by Congress, you can't override that one. Otherwise, it's going to go to the federal court or to the Supreme Court eventually. And the Democrats are not going to stop it.
Right. And there is a higher point about, it does not matter whether I agree with it or I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
Vivek Ramaswamy makes a critical point. This country was founded over 200 years ago on what has kept America together is the fundamental principle of separation of powers.
Yeah.
The Congress makes laws,
Yes.
the President enforces laws, and the judiciary interprets laws. If the judiciary starts making laws, if the President starts making laws, separation power is dead. And the fear of the founders of the Constitution was the way for dictatorship to come into this country is for one of the three branches to subvert the power of another. Like some of the people were saying, oh, Biden should ignore what Supreme Court says and do what you want. Well, now
No, it can't, because it will go back to Supreme Court again.
No,
because other parties are going to challenge him, because as you said, there is separation of power.
So I think on principle we should support separation of power even when it is in our favor.
Yes, we have to, because
the next person will get to do the same thing.
If you don't have law of the land, you don't have a country.
Yes.
Just like we don't have a border, this is not a country, and that's what's been happening for the past 4 years. As far as Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk is concerned, a lot of things they say has to be approved by Congress.
Yes.
So I would say go after fraud and abuse, because there you already have the laws. Existing laws, you just need some funding, and you try to enforce them, and whatever money you recover and put these bad people in jail forever, that will give a lot more return for their effort than trying to say we're going to revamp the entire federal employment system and all that. It's easier said than done, but as I said, there is a $300 to $500 million Medicare fraud each year. There you can go and put all the bad elements, doctors, hospitals, durable equipment, all these guys, put them in jail, because if they are stealing money from Medicare, they don't belong in the free society.
Right. And as Ramaswamy points out, for the last 9 years, the Pentagon has failed an audit and is unable to account for $1 trillion. Now, maybe not all of that is fraud, but if 20% of that is fraud, that's still a lot of money.
That's why I said, fraud is, you already have a captive audience.
Yes.
You go after these people who have defraud the government and get them through a fast legal process and put them in jail, put them out of business, take away their license.
And recover the money.
By doing so, you're cutting down a dramatic amount of expenses. And there you don't need any congressional approval or anything like that. As you said, I don't know if Trump can sign an executive order to do certain things which may require a Congress approval, even though he has both House and the Senate. In fact, we were having this debate last night. My son said, "Oh, Daddy, cool it. Trump's honeymoon is going to be only for 18 months. Because, of course, he's not running for the second term or the third term. But what's going to happen is, unless he accomplishes major milestones, one of which is going to be taxes, which will come to tax breaks. And if he doesn't, then they're going to lose House of the Senate in the second term. Then it's going to be a lame duck Congress, this session. So whatever he wants to accomplish, he better accomplish within the first 18 months. And one of the top priorities should be, of course, tax cuts, and there are so many pros and cons. We'll come back to that in a minute. So talking about the administrative hurdles, of course, all these executive orders, as you said, you had to go through a process. And that's where a lot of roadblocks may be placed by the Democrats or by the legal system. And of course, we talked about the state level resistance with reference to the immigration. And obviously, you are going to see some resistance, but I think that's going to fizzle out very, very quickly.
Because whoever resists him, they will start losing elections. So they also have to worry about that 18.
That's right.
It's not only Trump who has to worry about that 18.
Yeah.
Like Pritzker and Kathy Hochul Yeah, they also have to worry what happens in 18 months if they don't start, if they're still spending, hundreds of billions on illegal immigration.
Yeah.
Then, Eric Adams can win re-election by supporting Trump on illegal immigration. It'll be a win-win.
That will be a very good thing to see, because he was almost on the verge of losing his job and
Yes.
maybe even going to prison or something,
Yes.
based upon all the false allegations that were brought against him. But now, I'm so surprised that he survived this storm. Democrats trying to, sabotage his career.
Eric Adams is a very interesting guy. He's a former police chief
Yeah.
who's become mayor of a city in a party that says defund the police.
Yeah.
Right? So he has never liked those things,
Yeah.
but you have to pay lip service to the Democratic Party to run as a candidate. So he paid lip service to it. Now he reached a stage where he says, I don't care.
Like towards the end, he came out against Biden in many respects.
Yeah.
He said, my own party is trying to, demonize me, and I'm the one who is, trying to protect the state and city.
Yes, so the Trump can have a lot of interesting effects on both parties, and I think he'll bring sanity. That's what I feel. Because what he says, most people think that is common sense.
That's why 73+ million people voted for him, because they saw what was happening in the past 4 years. The country was going nowhere, the inflation was not coming down, the cost of living was going up, the price for good, ordinary goods, groceries and all this were just skyrocketing, and they still haven't come down. And it's insane. Nobody wants this, because as I said, for 99% of the people, it is the economy that matters. All this fluff that's going on in Washington doesn't mean anything.
I'll say there's two things, right? There's economy and safety.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be walking on a subway.
That's safety is a very important.
Yeah. So economy and safety side by side.
Even as recent as this month, we have seen disaster happening in subways.
Yes. I'm insane, like setting someone on fire done by an illegal immigrant.
Yeah.
So people want to know that someone won't kill me and I'll have a job. That's kind of what they want to know.
I know. Of course, they worry about public opinions, and we just have to wait and see how things play out. When Trump brings some of his ideas, which are sort of challenging, I would say, if not controversial.
I think tariffs is one.
Tariffs is one of those, and okay, so these are some of the challenges he will be facing, and I'm sure he knows how to navigate through all these different challenges. And we can see in the international arena, things have already started to, improve as far as Hamas and Middle East is concerned.
Yes.
Even before he's inaugurated. And let's hope, maybe he will bring some world peace, which is in the best interest of America, because it's costing America
Yes.
billions of dollars every time there's a war elsewhere in the world.
Yes.
So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a little break, and we're going to come back, and we are going to talk about inflation, which is on everybody's mind. Nobody can do anything about it, except, as I said, it is like a Titanic. It takes its own turn, but unless we do things right, the Titanic is not going to go anywhere other than sink. So let's take a couple of minutes break. Before we go to the breaks, we want to thank all our sponsors who have made it possible for us to be able to sit here and talk for 2 hours on topic of Trump 2.0, Thora Energy, Deep Products, and my friend Umang Mehta, Core Insurance, Tutor Jack. There's another one here, I can't even see this name here. This is American Realty Inc. and Biryani Pet. Biryani Pet has been a very, very strong supporter of Citizens' Voice, along with Dr. Nisha Sundar Gopalan. She was supposed to join us. Maybe she got stuck on
The weather is quite bad out there.
I know, it's getting worse.
When I was driving, Google Maps is saying, think if you want to drive or not.
Today, I thought it was tomorrow.
Yes, I don't think it's that bad today, but even Google is warning.
Yeah.
Think before you drive.
Absolutely. So we want to thank our sponsors. We'll take a little breather here, and we'll be right back. After that, we're going to talk about the next topic. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, we are back again, and we are going to switch topics now, and this is all about Trump 2.0 inauguration is finished. We talked about the executive orders. Now we're going to move on to inflation, which is on 99.9% of people's mind. And Melvin, Trump talks a lot about he can bring down inflation, and he can do it within 3 months, 6 months. What's your take? And then I'm going to talk about some of the challenges that not only Trump but the whole country is going to face in terms of turning this economy around to bring the inflation. It started off, it peaked at 9.2% in 22 or 23, and now it is down to 2.9, and it is not coming down. So people say, oh, the inflation is coming down. I said, but why my food prices are still so high? Because if you cumulatively add all the inflation that's gone on for 2 years, the food prices are, of course, some of them are like 200% or 100% more than what they were paying before all this crisis started.
Right. So what I'll say to that is, inflation is like a convenient scapegoat for a lot of things.
Yeah.
And people don't understand the math, which is, Biden's correct when he says inflation is coming down. What that means is, what is inflation? It is the price increase in the last 1 year, right? It is not reversal of the price increase in the last 3 years.
That's what I said. This inflation is coming down. Why are my prices still high? I said, because...
So the prices are going up at a lower rate than they used to before. So now, and in fact, if prices were going down, that would be deflation. Deflation is a bigger disaster than inflation.
I know.
Right? So what we really need is very moderate inflation of maybe like 1 to 2%.
2%.
So that's ideal. But now, so now we are talking like economists, right? But what does the common man mean when he says inflation? He does not mean the same thing the economist. He's working at McDonald's, and he's getting his minimum wage. What he's thinking of inflation is, this is the money I used to earn every month. This is what I used to spend on food. This is how much money is left in my bank account. The money left in my bank account is going down every month. So he will call that that is not inflation.
Yeah.
But that's what he calls inflation, right? What that really captures is the difference between wages and inflation, right? If wages went up at the same rate as inflation, no one would complain about inflation.
Absolutely. See, that's the thing. If your savings is the same,
yes.
As long as the food prices just jump double,
yes.
Then people don't feel it. It's like a slow immunization.
Yeah, because they are crying when they go to the grocery store, and they are celebrating when they get their paycheck. Right? So it balances out. They're saying, but my money going to my bank account every month is the same. My savings every month is the same. So people don't mind that. The real problem that Biden had is wages flat, inflation going up at a staggering rate, and that. So I think Trump can bring down the rate of inflation slightly, but I think he can increase wage growth significantly.
Yeah, I think in the past, the inflation was 2% and the GDP was 2.5%. So the productivity compensated for the inflation. But here it hasn't happened in the last couple of years, which has created a point where people are feeling that the money I bring is not enough to pay for all the bills that I was able to pay before.
So the common man is not bringing out his salary. He's doing he's looking at his bank statement every month.
Yeah.
He's saying, is my balance going up or down? He's not doing any math.
Yeah.
And if my balance is going down, I will call that inflation. Right? It is not inflation, it is the difference between your income and your expenditure.
So some of the things proposed by Trump is like tariffs. I have a perception, as a businessman, if you're selling a product for United States for $100, and if Trump were to charge you 10%, your cost is going to be $110. And who is going to pay that
the
extra
difference.
cost? Huh?
Right, the difference.
Yeah.
And so the thing is, a lot of people talk about this only as cost. So a different way of saying what you're saying is, a friend of mine asked me, if I go to Walmart and I buy a pair of sneakers for $20, why do I care who made it? I said, you may not care who made it. The person who's making those sneakers in Ohio, he might care about it.
Yeah.
Right? So what this liberal imports is a transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich. Mm-hmm. When I say I want people mowing my lawn for cheap, I don't care who mows my lawn, but the guy who got laid off, the American who lost his job mowing my lawn, he cares, right? So it is a transfer of wealth from rich to poor. The reason I don't like macroeconomics, like when you say productivity and you say many other things, is it's not capturing who gets affected. we have long celebrated when Wall Street makes profits, even if people in
Starving.
Michigan are starving.
Yeah.
Right. So what matters to me is who is making those profits.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think what people have to understand is with tariffs, it is true that rich people will pay more, but poor people will earn more. Right? Because he's bringing back jobs to America. Those jobs are more expensive than jobs in China because China is putting slave laborers, is putting Muslims from Uyghur into.
Well, that's Trump's hope that by putting tariffs, he would cut down the imports and sort of inspire American companies
Yes.
to hire more people. But in his first term, it was not a very successful project. He created maybe 600,000 new jobs, but that's not a big number compared to what you would expect to turn this tide wave altogether. In a sense, at the end of the day, when let's take a bicycle, $100 made in China, and now you charge 10%, 20% tariff. It's costing $120 for China. China is going to pass it on to the Walmart, and who is going to pay for it? You and me.
Yeah, right. But in the short term, yes.
Yeah.
In the long term, the Walmart will realize I can make bicycles cheaper in like Nebraska than in China, and so jobs will start coming back. It takes time. It won't happen overnight.
That's a long-term process.
Yes.
Because in order to put a manufacturing factory, it's going to take years.
Yes, and to train people and to retool,
Yeah.
and so it also took decades to move it to China.
That's right.
But at some point, we have to stop moving jobs from America to our enemies and celebrate because Wall Street profits are going up.